These creatures were here before us. And if we're not careful, they're gonna be here after.
Hello and welcome to my film review of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Now, I'm a huge fan of the original Jurassic Park film. You know, as like most kids, I loved dinosaurs growing up, and that film came out the same year I was born, so my dad showed it to me when I was just a little kid. And then the subsequent sequels I saw the Jurassic Park 3 in theatres. I remember my dad taking me to see that. I know it's not the most critically acclaimed of the series, but it still has a special place in my heart because of that. And so, yeah, you know, the whole Jurassic Park franchise, it means a great deal to me, and I was really happy when the series was rebooted a couple of years ago with Chris Pratt. So, how does Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom compare to the others? Does it take us to new heights, or should the series have stayed extinct? Let's find out. The first part of this review will be spoiler free, so if you're yet to see it, then don't worry, you can watch this. And then in the second half I will go into the details of the film, but I'll give you fair warning when I'm about to do that. Overall, I have to say I did enjoy Fallen Kingdom. I would be the first to admit that it's not a perfect film. It's certainly got flaws, but I feel like it was fun. And that to me is kind of the most important thing really with you know, the Jurassic Park series. And, you know, you have dinosaurs, you've got Chris Pratt, you know, the action hero. And I feel like the film knew what it was, if that makes sense. Yes, I have problems with it. It doesn't live up to the legacy, I'd say, of the original Jurassic Park film. It's not going to blow your mind the way that did. But to be honest, I'm kind of wondering at this point if any new film, you know, Jurassic Park film, can be as influential and as mind-blowing as the original was. However, I think it's definitely worth the price of admission. I think it's a fun, action-packed film full of dinosaurs. I mean, you know, dinosaurs makes any film better. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, if it's dinosaurs, I wish dinosaurs were as used in pop culture at the moment as zombies are. You know, they're dinosaurs, they're freaking awesome. So yeah, I feel like it's a flawed film, but I had fun. I was never bored during it. There were some things that didn't quite land for me, but overall I felt like it was an enjoyable dinosaur flick. I think younger viewers will definitely enjoy this. You know, if you're an adult into Jurassic Park and you've got kids, I think you'd both enjoy watching it on different levels. And yeah, as I say, some problems, but overall I think it was a solid film. Fallen Kingdom takes place shortly after the events of the first Jurassic World film, where, you know, chaos just rained down upon the park. Claire, Bryce Dallas Howard's character, is obviously out of a job, and Chris Pratt wants nothing to do with dinosaurs. He's just going off into the wilderness, building himself a log cabin. He's got no interest in chasing raptors anymore. But eventually they get roped into returning to Ila Nebula, I believe that's the island's name, to save what's left of the dinosaurs there because a volcano is set to explode. That's not a spoiler, that's pretty much where the film starts off. And of course, you know, neither of them particularly want to do it, but they feel they owe something to the dinosaurs, so they travel there on this kind of crazy rescue mission to rescue dinosaurs, basically.
Hey, Blue. You know me.
Come with me. You know you can't stay here.
So I'll begin by going into the things I liked about the film. First of all, Chris Pratt. I mean, he's Hollywood's biggest leading actor at the moment, and there's just something so lovable about him. He, you know, is really good at playing kind of an action hero who also has a bit of a softer side, who has a sense of humour, doesn't take himself too seriously. I think, you know, there's no mystery as to why he's so popular at the moment. He's a great actor, and he seems like a really cool guy in general. So yeah, I feel like he was a great choice to cast as the new lead in these films. And you know, I don't think that's changed with this one. He has just a great mix of humour versus seriousness versus playfulness. You know, I have to say the dinosaurs, obviously, I mean, it's Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, it wouldn't be that without dinosaurs, and I think they looked great. There was a really good mix, I felt, of practical effects versus CGI. So when characters are kind of interacting one-on-one with dinosaurs, or, you know, touching them, they would use practical effects, and I feel like that worked very well because you didn't feel like the actors were kind of vaguely stroking where they thought the CGI would be. You could tell they were touching scales of a dinosaur and stuff. And then obviously with the bigger set pieces, the fight scenes, you know, the T-Rex charging out, that CGI, and, you know, it looked great. I mean, it's a Hollywood blockbuster film. The CGI, as you would expect, looked very good, and I felt like it was used carefully in moments where it was needed, and if there was a moment that could have used a practical effect, they went with that. So overall, I'd say the dinosaurs really did look great, and, you know, as good as any CGI you're likely to see at the moment. I won't go into spoiler territory yet, so don't worry, but I did feel that the end of the film also has taken the series into a new direction. You know, for the most part, these films have all been set on this island in this park. And I feel like if we'd had a third Jurassic World film doing the same, it kind of would have been getting quite fatiguing by that point. However, I don't think that's what's going to happen this time. I think there is new ground to be explored now, given the events of this film. And I think that's a great idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing them explore that.
She's tracked. Okay, come on.
Okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
I was also pleased to see that one of the original cast members of Jurassic Park returned, Jeff Goldblum. I really like Jeff Goldblum as an actor. You know, I've seen interviews with him. He seems like a very cool guy. And I thought it was really cool that there was, you know, that connection to the old series of films. I'd really like to see Sam Neill return. You know, I'd love him to, even if it was just a cameo, have him return, because obviously this is happening in the same universe as the Jurassic Park films are set, and the people that are in Jurassic Park would obviously be very interested and very connected to the things going on now with Jurassic World. So I don't feel like it would feel like fan service to have more of the older characters returning, and personally I'd really like to see it. And I felt the way they implemented Jeff Goldblum in this, it really worked and made sense. As I said, there were plenty of nods to the old films, and, you know, just as someone who as a kid grew up watching them, I really like that. Maybe you could call it fan service, but for me it's fan service that works. I get so nostalgic for Jurassic Park. Just hearing the opening theme tune, you know, takes me right back to the 90s. So, yeah, I was pleased that there was you know, they haven't rebooted this and tried to ignore the past films. They're very much accepting of them and including them. So personally, I think that's a great thing, and I hope they continue to do that. Don't get me wrong, I want new dinosaurs, I want new characters, but at the same time I think it's great we're not forgetting the heritage of the series. The film also had a very interesting message, I felt, regarding humankind and our relationship with both science and nature. You know, at the time we live in kind of a turning point in our history, you could say. Things like global warming and endangered species, we're trying to help these things, but at the same time we're still living in a very unsustainable way, and I think Jurassic World is a film that touches on that more so than the first Jurassic World. I think this has kind of more of a serious message to it. You know, if we could clone dinosaurs, should we? You know, as Jeff Goldblum's character says, they were so concerned with if they could, they didn't think about if they should. And, you know, it's a poignant message for our times. I mean, things are so delicate, nature's so delicate, science can help us in great ways, but it can also unleash horrors. And, you know, I kind of respected the film for going there. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not preachy, I didn't feel, or, you know, it wasn't really serious, but it did touch on those ideas, and the characters kind of had to look at their actions and be like, have we done a good thing here? You know, dinosaurs exist now, the cat's out of the bag, what do we do about that? How does that affect things? Do they have a right to live and be in the world, or should we destroy them because they shouldn't be here at all? There was questions there that were asked, and I felt as a viewer I kind of ruminated on that, and I feel like they could have just gone with a straightforward, cool, it's action, dinosaurs, but there were some interesting questions in there about the morality of science and nature, and I thought it was cool they included that.
If I don't make it back, remember, you're the one who made me come here. I'll be all right.
So now I'm going to go into the things I didn't like about the film. And as I said, although I enjoyed it overall, I definitely did have some issues with it. For starters, I want to say the humour, for me, just did not land at all. It wasn't terrible, like, I didn't feel myself kind of cringing or anything at the humour. It wasn't horrendous, but it just didn't land, 9 out of 10 times, I'd say. The characters would have quips and stuff, and there'd be the occasional, physical gag, but for the most part, no one in the audience laughed out loud at any point during the film that I saw. I think, generally speaking, the Marvel films are very good at blending action with humour. I mean, Chris Pratt, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, I think those films are really funny, but also are good at being serious and having action. But that wasn't the case for this film, unfortunately. I just felt like the jokes were shoehorned in and were just there for its own sake. And I just think if they didn't want to make a funny film or have funny jokes in, then you don't really need to. I mean, this is a film about dinosaurs. It doesn't have to be a comedy, So I think it would have been better if they just left it. But there was a couple of gags I thought was good. There's a bit where Chris Pratt's character almost gets crushed by a dinosaur, and he gives a thumbs up to signal he's okay, which again is kind of Chris Pratt's charisma, pulling off that joke rather than the joke itself, I felt. So yeah, the humour for me didn't land at all, but at the same time I wouldn't say it ruined the film. It just didn't work, that's all. I also have to say that I still have no connection or sympathy to Claire Dearing, Bryce Dallas Howard's character. And that's not criticism of Bryce Dallas Howard. I think she's a good actress. But I just find her an incredibly unlikable character. I thought she was unlikable in Jurassic World, and I think she's unlikable in Fallen Kingdom. I mean, for starters, most of the things that went wrong in Jurassic World were her fault. And it seemed like there was no comeuppance of that. I mean, people died in that film. Can you imagine if, Disney World, there was a horrible accident where people died? There would be serious consequences for the people that were responsible for that. And yet she kind of just seems to get away with it. I mean, I guess it wasn't all entirely her fault, but I feel like it would have been good to pay a bit more lip service to the fact that there was such a disaster in Jurassic World. And again, she didn't come across as a likeable character in that one. She made bad decisions and she didn't seem like a very good person to me, and this film doesn't do a lot to rectify that. I will say the end, kind of, I would say there was a bit where she seems to kind of have learnt her lesson. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was some kind of nod to the idea that she might be kind of becoming more sympathetic, but for the most part, I really wasn't that bothered about whether or not she lived or died. If they'd have had her being eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, I would have been like, oh my god, they killed her off, So yeah, I think it's just the writing there, but not a criticism of Bryce's performance of the character. This film again goes into the idea of people wanting to clone dinosaurs and purchase them in order to use as weapons. Now, this is something that's been a kind of running theme throughout the series for quite a while. Imagine if we could weaponize dinosaurs. And I mean, it was kind of goofy but acceptable in the 90s, but I feel like we've got to a point now where who in their right mind would want to weaponize dinosaurs to fight in wars and stuff? I mean, are you really expecting me to believe that it would be an effective way to combat our enemies? I mean, are you telling me that the US Army would really just unleash some raptors into the Middle East to take out terrorists? I mean, what? We have fearsome beasts already. We have lions and tigers, ones that are much more trainable than dinosaurs, but we don't use them in war. I mean, I know we use dogs and horses and such, but they're more for, carrying people around, sniffing out bombs and stuff. They're not used for fighting as such. And I don't know, the idea that, the US Army would be so interested in having T-Rexes with machine guns on their backs. I mean, really, guys, really? You know, I can completely accept the idea that people would be willing to pay huge sums of money just to have dinosaurs as pets, you know, millionaires, you know, you see them, they have like pet lions and tigers in real life, so of course they would pay through the nose to get hold of a raptor or something. And that in itself is bad, I think. I don't think people should own giant cats as pets, and I don't think they should own dinosaurs as pets. So I'm willing to see that as the thing that, you know, the good characters are fighting against. But the idea that they're going to be weaponizing dinosaurs, I just don't buy it. So yeah, as I say, I thought it was an overall enjoyable film compared to some of the other big blockbusters released recently, like Deadpool 2, Infinity War. I wouldn't say it's as good as those. However, I do think it's worth watching if you want a fun film where, you know, you're not going to be asked to think too carefully. It's, you know, a fun, bombastic film. I think it's definitely worth the price of admission, and if you're a Jurassic Park fan, then I think you'll probably get a kick out of it. You probably won't like it as much as the originals, but I think it's worth seeing, if only because it's an interesting stepping stone for the next film. It does certainly have some issues with its plot points. There are kind of things where you think like, well, why did they do that? Or if this has happened, why can't they solve that problem just by doing this? You know, it's not the kind of film you can pick apart under a microscope and it'll remain watertight. I mean, you know, it's a film about dinosaurs though. But then so is the original Jurassic Park, and I think that was pretty watertight. But yeah, so it's not quite as carefully thought out perhaps, but it's still overall enjoyable. And, you know, if you just accept that this world exists, then I think you'll have a pretty good time. I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10. I'd say it's an above average film, 5 being average. It's enjoyable. There were things I did really like about it, but a few things I really didn't like about it as well. Some issues I had. So yeah, overall, good job. I hope we get to see another sequel, because I'm interested to see where it's going to go in the future. And stay tuned for more film reviews. And let me know in the comments what you thought about the film if you've seen it. Did you hate it? Did you like it? Where would you rank it in compared to the other Jurassic Park films? Let me know. See you next time.